Cells that could become tornadic down the line. They're certainly elevated, but we'll have to watch them, especially the southwestern flank of this system, that now we have a very intense cell that's working its way onto Vermilion Parish.
Robin, I can interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
The one in Lafayette Parish, it did expire.
Okay, so the warning there is expired. Well, we're pretty much through the worst of it, but we're going to still see some gusty winds for sure. Mm-hmm. So that is the good news there. Again, as we dial into Power Doppler 3, because we're having intense rainfall right now, we're kind of losing some of our reflectivities across the area, but again, we don't see any circulation that is sticking out here that concerns us. The one that is south of Abbeville by Perry, maybe Boston, that's got something going on there, but it's not looking uniform. What we look for is uniformity if it's going to be a tornado, but that doesn't mean it can't be producing damaging winds. And I'm sure we got a couple of pixels in here that if we query them would show some pretty strong winds. In fact, I see one right now that I do want to query.
Yes.
And I'll just work my way over here because
right over Lafayette.
Yeah, right. Well, this one right here.
Yeah, that
I'm
one
looking
too.
at.
Correct.
This one that is southwest of Abbeville. Let's just get that guy. 73-mile-an-hour winds there. So Lafayette, what you got here?
It has weakened, but the last frame it was showing definitely some brighter reds, and they had a little bit of green that was kind of mixed again.
I can back mine up and take a look at that as well.
Yeah, kind of right there as it was pushing through.
Yeah,
a
I
little
see
bit.
that. Yeah. On the southeast side of town,
Right.
a little bit south of the Lafayette name right there. So let's zoom in, get even closer. And the closer we're in, the blockier the data gets, and sometimes it's harder to see the data. But right there, on the south side of town.
It has weakened.
Right along Ambassador Caffrey over to Khaleesi Loom Road.
Right.
But that has weakened. So that is the good news there. Again, this is a little bit of a troublemaker that we're watching south and west of Abbeville. These things are moving at a good clip. And again, this guy's a 70-mile-an-hour one, 77. So we'll continue to watch that, and hopefully we don't see any higher amounts. Putting it in motion, you can see how it's kind of entered the picture right here. We'll zoom out a little bit. And this cell, let's prog this cell out, Bradley.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and do that and do a cone track here, and we'll give it. I think I'm programmed for 60.
60, yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah,
we'll
they're hauling.
We got this reaching Delcom in about 7 minutes or so. Delcom, Erath area in about 7 minutes. Youngsville, 7:24. Broussard, a few minutes later than that, and St. Martinville. That's if it holds together. Right. And what we're seeing is these storms really don't hold themselves together in the same form. But nonetheless, we have the tornado warning going right now. Let me get rid of that flood warning. But this tornado warning in effect for a chunk of Lafayette Parish, a good part of eastern Vermilion Parish. For that cell that we just been showing you, that's got that rotation that's heading toward the Abbeville area, and Delcom, 7:15 p.m. on that current tornado warning. A lot bigger picture, we have the severe thunderstorm warning for the additional parishes in all of Acadiana. This is kind of a blanket statement. New severe thunderstorm warning out for northern Iberville Parish up toward Point Coupee Parish. That one is probably in effect till 8-ish or so. Yeah, right around 8 o'clock. So not a surprise there that these warnings will continue well east of our area. And as quickly as it got loud across our station, now I know it's quiet, and now I can go back to Power Doppler 3. I know I have a good, clean shot here, a much higher resolution shot of the precipitation that we have. So where is it raining heaviest? Northeastern Lafayette Parish, coming down cats, dogs, small farm animals, all the way over to Breaux Bridge. Very intense rainfall out in the downtown area and north side of town right now. Torrential downpours. And then they continue down through Pinhook, down to Khaleesi Loom Road and Highway 90 as we get down to the south over by Bonham Road, Fortune Road, very heavy rainfall, Chemin Metairie, and then it lets up. But this is the squall that we'll continue to track. Notice, sometimes we do have some telltale signs, a little comma shape here maybe. And let's see if we can jive that with the velocity data. So not much showing up. Sometimes you can pick out these mesocyclones. It's showing up farther to the south, but interestingly enough, we really don't see it within any of our imagery. It's kind of showing up right around here where we're seeing these notches. So there is inflow going into these. There's rotation, but whether we're seeing manifestations into a tornado, and then we have a nice curl right there, north and west of Delcambre, and then even on the backside, this is what I was looking at, that's probably a meso-low or the parent meso-low that is generating maybe these other little swirls. So essentially, you have your little low right here. I have a triangle thing. Let me do a low right here. Oh, that's a pointer, so I don't want any of these features. But the bottom line, within this squall line right here, we'll have these little areas, these little circulations out ahead of it. That's what we're going to have to keep an eye on as we go through the next hour or so. The good news is this is going to be clearing St. Martin Parish. Well, it's just about clearing Lafayette Parish. That's going to happen by about 7:30, 7:45 or so. The rains are going to let up. It's going to be moving through St. Martin Parish, from now through about 8 p.m. Iberia Parish, now through about 8 p.m. St. Mary Parish up until about 9 p.m. So that's what we'll continue to watch as we work our way through here. Let's bring in the sweep so we get the much bigger picture. We're still not hitting those cells quite yet because we have a lot of heavy rain just to the southwest of the station. But you can see how things have been rolling along and just put this in motion. That's a squall line, a very defined squall line, and with what we call embedded supercells, where we're seeing the lightning enhancement right there. The one that went through Lafayette Parish this weekend, that one a little bit south of Abbeville, and then another one along the coast right there. So those are the two that we're watching right now, and we'll get to the velocity data again, not showing anything overt. Tracking data. We have a couple of cells that we're tracking right here, Bradley.
Yes.
That one cell that is south of Abbeville or near the Abbeville area. We'll query that and give you that it's moving generally to the east, a potential mesocyclone there impacting Abbeville and Erath during those times, which is shortly, next 10 to 15 minutes. That other cell that has prompted the National Weather Service in Slidell, Louisiana, to issue the warning out toward the New Roads area. That's the rotating cell there. Elsewhere, we don't see a whole lot in the way of rotation based on what we have. But since we have all these warnings going and the rain is pouring and people probably are already complaining about our information interrupting their program, we're going to continue to go anyway because this is kind of one of the higher end events that we're going to see in the wintertime, and that's what we were talking about specifically with respect to the storms that are pushing through the area and the dynamics that have been in place that we were expecting to be in place. But once again, it looks like the marine layer is still kind of holding overall.
It is.
Since we haven't gotten any reports of severe weather. And that's the most important thing. Is one thing is having a warning. It's the second thing is to get a verification. And while we're on this shot, I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at the chat program here through the National Weather Service that is not available for me. I got a report of wind damage, a overturned near Rain, Louisiana at 6:27. That was the cell that we were talking about. That was that cell that was just west of Rain.
Right.
So we have a local storm report. Another local storm report. Emergency manager reported a tornado at 5:13 p.m. This is up in Beauregard Parish. Several homes and roofs blown off, trees down, power lines down in around the Ragley area. So those are the two specific reports of damaging winds. Had a report of 63 mile an hour winds at Opelousas, at the Opelousas airport. So these storms mean business, and they have been producing damage and have had a history of damage. So that's why we are still on the air right now and talking about these storms as they continue to roll through Acadiana. So let's get up to speed once again. Let me bring you up to speed on what's happening as we have these storms moving through. We still have that tornado watch in effect for all of Acadiana, and we have some tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings going right now. So the warnings in place Let's click on that. The tornado warning dropped for Lafayette. We have a flash flood warning for Lafayette. Let me just go ahead and query that as well. So to give you an idea and see what the Weather Service is saying about this, Doppler radar, 1 to 2 inches of rain has fallen. Additional 1 to 3 are possible. And that's what we've been going with, a 1 to 3 event, isolated 3 to 4, and that's been across a good part of the area. Bradley, you're doing some rainfall estimates there. Go ahead. You can go ahead and take that one there.
Yeah, no, it just looks like you mentioned, the forecast pretty much coming into focus as far as rainfall amounts. Yeah, a good part of the area picking up anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rainfall. And we do have a flash flood warning that is in effect here. But I just want to get the big picture real quick. First of all, who is dealing with the worst of the storms? Now, Western Acadiana, say Jeff Davis Parish, even now so Acadia Parish, western portions of St. Landry Parish. If you're in Evangeline Parish, these storms have now moved east of your area. So yes, it did rain pretty intensely for a period of time, but then the rain suddenly came to an end. And that is what is going to happen with this line of storms. It's not going to be raining continuously all night long. It comes down very hard. You pick up 1 to 3 inches, and then it moves on out of here. And that is what we're seeing. And in fact, the worst of the weather is now starting to exit Lafayette Parish as well, western parts of Vermilion Parish. So again, all of this quickly ending from west to east, but still, worst of the weather still has to push through Upper St. Martin Parish, really Upper and Lower St. Martin Parish, Iberia Parish, St. Mary Parish as well. So these are the areas, really southeastern Acadiana, that we're going to be paying a close attention to here over the next couple of hours. Now we still do. Looks like they dropped the tornado warning. Okay, so we were talking about that couplet, that velocity signature that was showing up just south of Abbeville in Vermilion Parish. The good news is that particular signature has continued to weaken over time as it's pushed off to the north. So you can see it here. Still broad, but it's definitely not as tight together as it was, say, about 20 to 30 minutes ago. And so as that continues to push off to the north, it has weakened. So that is the good news. That tornado warning has been dropped. Nonetheless, still some strong winds associated with this line of storms as it pushed through. As they push through. So no current tornado warnings. Like I said, the one in both Lafayette and Vermilion parishes both have been dropped. So again, that is the good news, but still a severe thunderstorm warning continues for the southeastern parishes of Acadiana, and that is just in anticipation of the main line of storms that continues to march southeastward here. So again, Iberia Parish, Lower St. Martin Parish, and St. Mary parishes. You are the ones that are going to be dealing with the intense line of storms here over the next several minutes. But the worst of the weather has now started to push out of Lafayette Parish. Worst of it now moving into eastern Vermilion Parish, again in and around the Delcombe, Erath area. You're getting the heaviest of the rainfall, the gustiest of the wind, the gusty winds, also quite a bit of lightning. You've been noticing that as well. But western Acadiana and even now a good part of northern Acadiana, the rain is starting to come to an end. A lot of questions in the feed. Again, yeah, it poured, but then it came to an end. Are we done? Yes, once you get through the heaviest of the rainfall, we're done. You're in the clear. So I would say western parishes now, you are pretty much in the clear for the rest of the night. Really over the next hour and a half, I'd say, we're going to be watching the radar still for southeastern Acadiana. But even Lafayette Parish, like I just said, the worst of the weather has now started to push off to the east. We really don't hear the rain anymore here at the station. So, like I said, it rains intensely for several minutes, and then it comes to an end. But still, a good amount of rainfall, 1 to 3 inches, pretty much widespread here in Acadiana.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Why don't we just go ahead and take Max 1 full on the wall, work my way over there. But I want to give you a couple of damage updates. And these are the highest wind reports so far indicated by the National Weather Service. By Sabine Pass, 64. A gust to 63 in Opelousas. Gust to 59 in Lake Charles at the airport. Southeast Regional Air, that's over at Beaumont, 55. New Iberia's had a gust to 54. Let me just check the Lafayette Parish, see what the highest gust here. Gust to 49 officially, and that was at 6:53 p.m. in Lafayette at the Lafayette Regional Airport. Additional damage reports that we have gotten, report of a tornado over by in Calcasieu Parish at 4:46 p.m. Several trees were blown down on Highway 109, LA 109. Emergency crews were inspecting the region for more damage. Then we also had a report of a tornado at 5:13 p.m. in Beauregard Parish, about 2 miles south of the Ragley area, where several homes had roofs blown off, trees down, power lines down, we had a report of that semi overturned near Rain at roughly 6:27 p.m. 1 mile northwest of Rain. I'm not sure if that was on I-10 or maybe the highway that goes north-south out of Rain. And then that wind gust in Opelousas that we had earlier. So this system has so far delivered on its winds. It's delivered on some severe weather, but fortunately, as far as we can tell, it's tough to tell, but we have not seen anything beyond those damaging winds. But it's still early in the game with this system. We still have a little ways to go as we get into the next hour or two for the rest of Acadiana, and then it's going to be eastern Louisiana's issue. But again, you can see the strongest, most intense storms. You're done in St. Landry Parish. You know, we have the tornado watch. You can still see a little red for Vermilion. We're done in Acadia Parish for tornadoes. Done in St. Landry Parish, we think. Yeah, we're done here, done in Avoyelles, done in Evangeline Parish, done in Acadia. Most of Vermilion, say just east of Pecan Island. The western part of Vermilion Parish, you're in the clear as well. But you can see other locations. Certainly, we still have a lot going on with some locally very intense rainfall. Let's take a quick look at the velocity sweeps here and see what we see. Is there anything that sticks out on us that is looking severe? At this point, we have to say no. So that is the good news, but we still have warnings going, mind you. Here are the warnings across the area. The severe thunderstorming, that broad brush severe thunderstorm warning, that's going to go through 8 o'clock tonight, so we'll continue to watch that. And again, we've had some pretty intense storms overall that have shown rotation. But notice the rotation markers are fewer and farther between. Again, we'll watch the cell down here. I'm a little concerned with this cell down along the coast, bringing the Doppler radar. And we're seeing a fair bit of cloud-to-ground lightning. That's down across the coastal marsh. Again, not impacting any humans for the most part. So that is the good news. But still very intense thunderstorm activity across portions of the region. Here we're kind of zoomed in. We see the heaviest rains now moving through upper St. Martin Parish here. Reaching Butte, La Rose, Henderson, it's going to be coming down very heavily shortly. St. Martinville Park, seeing your very heavy downpours here along LA 31. It looks like you got a little bit of a break in Youngsville, but another wave coming on through associated with this intense cell. And then that cell that is just south of the Delcambre area, that was the one that we were tracking some rotation on earlier, but we don't really see a whole lot. Maybe something going on here into St. Martin Parish, but nothing that's overt that flags us. Notice that cell that we were pointing out down by the coast, north and east of Intracoastal City. That's a little bit more interesting looking, but it's not balling up quite yet. But damaging winds, certainly a possibility. And we've already seen the verifications of those wind gusts approaching 70 miles an hour. We've seen the verification of the severe weather, seen verification of the tornado watches with the tornado warnings and actual tornadoes that had reached the ground backing across Texas. And that's sometimes the way it works. And you can see the heaviest activity here. I'm going to just back it up and just go through a little bit of a background on why we're seeing severe weather across Texas, and the same system moves into Louisiana and some of the dynamics weaken, and that's that marine layer. When you're in Texas, you're getting less of an influence of the ocean and more of the forcing aloft that really is dominating the pattern. But then as squall lines get into Louisiana, soon as they start pulling from the Gulf of Mexico, that helps to start to weaken them. But what happens very, very often, especially in the spring, summer, and fall, is that the storms may weaken somewhere between Lake Charles and Lafayette, Lafayette. Then they pick up in intensity as they move farther to the east. And in the wintertime, that's just the dynamics overwhelming that cool air that was initially injected into the severe weather. But in the summertime, you also have that extra juice that comes out of the Atchafalaya swamp, and that's why storms more frequently get more intense once they reach the Atchafalaya Basin and then push off farther to the east. They've been juiced up. In the summertime, we have dew points out across the basin in the 80-degree range, so it's almost a natural severe weather maker for the area and southern Louisiana. But right now, we still have very intense storms moving across the area. We have a tornado watch going with these strong, intense storms now moving through, done with Lafayette, moving through St. Martin Parish, just about over with in St. Landry Parish, save the extreme southeastern portion of the parish, which is actually in the Atchafalaya Swamp. So that is good news there. And the intense weather continues as we get down into portions of northern western Iberia Parish. Again, New Iberia, the worst of it, just about coming through. A lot of cloud-to-ground lightning with this cell. We'll take a look at the velocity for you, New Iberia. And again, not a whole lot showing up. Maybe a little something going on here north into southern upper St. Martin Parish, but we don't see a whole lot going on with respect to storm structure, but damaging winds still a possibility with these cells as we continue through the evening hours. And here's a closer look. You can see St. Martinville, Henderson seeing the heaviest rainfall. We work our way southward, just about reaching New Iberia. Delcombe, it's been storming over toward, from Grosse Ile over to the Delcombe area now, working its way over toward the New Iberia area. Again, very heavy rainfall. And what we have been noticing, pardon me, and we continue to notice, these positive cloud-to-ground lightning strikes, more of them than less of them, which always means strong updrafts, downdrafts, and the possibility of damaging winds. And then we're going to get down along the coast. We see a pretty nasty cell working its way through Vermilion Parish and then offshore as well. These cells are going to be moving into Iberia Parish and St. Mary Parish, and we'll see. These are pretty intense-looking cells. Look at this particular area. Very strong winds. More than likely, this is producing a pretty bodacious shelf cloud out in the Gulf of Mexico, and strong downburst winds heading out ahead of it. But we'll watch it in case it does produce damaging winds. Looking at the velocity data, there may be something going on here as we get into southwestern portions of Vermilion Parish, and we'll bring in the Doppler back in. That's this cell right here. I'm surprised, actually, we don't have marine warnings for these cells, but it goes without saying, mariners beware. If you're catching our signal offshore and you're working some platforms out there, it's going to be rough and tumble weather. Wind gusts in the Gulf of Mexico, 60 knots, which for us, that's 65, 70 mile an hour winds. So very intense nonetheless. So the strongest activity, again, moving through Henderson Park, St. Martinville as we speak, gusty, possibly damaging winds. And again, not a whole lot showing up on our velocity data, but we'll count that as a blessing. Let's clear these out, and we have still actually portions of Lafayette still in that severe thunderstorm warning. That should be cleared. Breaux Bridge should be cleared soon, but we have that widespread severe thunderstorm warning that covers all the parishes for the rest of Acadiana, upper St. Martin, Iberia, down through St. Mary, and lower St. Martin parishes as well. That's till, what time was that till? I think that was till 8 o'clock this evening. So we'll let that go for right now. So let's take a look at the big picture. Still that tornado watch in effect for a good chunk of Acadiana, but mainly east of that squall line. That's through 1 a.m. And again, I have storms ending in Acadiana by 10 p.m. I think we're even going to beat that estimate. It might be closer to 9. But we'll be staying here and watching the storms as they clear St. Mary Parish as well. I know a lot of folks in Lafayette say, why are you on the air if we're talking about storms in St. Mary Parish? Well, if you lived in St. Mary Parish and you could only get our signal and our digital products, you'd want to know about the storms as well. So sorry about interrupting the networks for tonight, but this is the time that we have to do it. And by the way, we have to maintain our license through the FCC by covering these severe weather events. That's part of what we're charged to do, protect life and property. So that's why why we're on the air right now. An interesting loop here as we look at Power Doppler 3. You can see how the storms came over us, kind of brought down the imagery, and then as soon as they passed, after it was raining so heavily, we have a very clean picture right now, and a high-resolution picture. Again, much better than what you would normally see with the National Weather Service Doppler radars, and that's where the money is in Power Doppler 3 for sure. And again, you can see those storms expanding down along the coast. So that's what we have going right now. The severe weather threat pushing off to the east. Bradley's giving me, he's tracking that cell. What is that in
that's in Vermilion Bay.
Western Vermilion Bay. Go ahead, Bradley.
Yeah, I just wanted to point it out here. It's coming on shore. It's in Vermilion Bay, like I just mentioned, but it is showing some broad rotation, some strong winds here. I just want to keep an eye on it for our friends out in Sycamore Point. It looks like the main circulation here is probably going to track just to the west of Sycamore Point, but nonetheless, we are seeing kind of a broad circulation there. You can see the greens kind of meshing with the reds. Green, winds going towards the radar. Red is the winds going away from the radar. And we are seeing some brighter tints of that red as well. So some strong gusty winds moving into Vermilion Bay. Broad rotation. This is not tornado warned, but nonetheless, going to keep an eye on it because, of course, we do have people that watch us out in Sycamore Point. But nonetheless, it does look like the main circulation here probably going to actually track just to the west of the point. But we're going to keep an eye on it, and let's just see if I can query it here for you, give you some of the wind estimates. And again, about 53 miles per hour there, and this is not necessarily the winds at the surface. Again, the radar is shooting off into the horizon, so it's probably shooting farther up in the atmosphere, and indeed it is, but nonetheless, still some gusty winds as these storms push on through. I would expect wind gusts anywhere at least 40 to 50 miles per hour, but anyway, let's just zoom on out here with the Doppler radar. And again, we do have a flash flood warning that does continue here for portions of Acadiana, and that is simply because the rain was coming down so hard and so fast. It was at least accumulating to 1 to 3+ inches of rainfall. I did get a report out of Scott, I believe. They saw closer to 4 inches of rainfall. So thus, again, we do have this flash flood warning since the rain came down so heavily and quickly. There was probably some ponding on the roadways, flooding in low-lying areas, and those typical flood-prone areas probably collecting some water. But nonetheless, the good news is this is not an event where it's going to be raining all night long. So it's going to come down heavy for a period of time, but then it comes to an end. So if you were basically Lafayette on westward, even you can almost say Lafayette on northward into St. Landry Parish, Evangeline Parish, the worst of the weather has now pushed east. So we are watching the radar closely now, mostly for Iberia Parish, Lower St. Martin Parish, and St. Mary Parish as well. And again, if you're at the point, if you're in New Iberia, Lydia, worst of the rainfall is pushing through as we speak. Quite a bit of lightning with these storms as well. So it's going to sound pretty rough there again for a period of time, but then it's going to quickly come to an end. And like I said, the good news is as we take a look at the velocity signatures, nothing that's really standing out. We see some broad rotation here and there. Again, we were tracking
Got
one
some by Avery Island.
Yes,
You
I
got
think
that
I was.
one?
Yep, is that just to the east of right over Avery Island.
Heading toward the Rhinella area.
Correct. Yes, this is just east of Delcom as well. Moving to the north, pretty much northeast. Again, broad rotation. It's nothing that's standing out as something that would be a significant situation. So that certainly is the good news, but nonetheless, we are seeing some broad rotation as these storms push on through in the areas that we were expecting, right, along and south of the I-10 corridor. I'm just going to go through some of the comments here. Of course, you're welcome for broadcasting you all out in St. Mary Parish. We want to watch all of Acadiana, not just here in Lafayette. We do try our best. If you are wondering maybe why we're not covering as much as northern Acadiana, again, that is not where we're seeing the tornado-warned storms. The ingredients more in place for the area south of the I-10 corridor, but still, if you were in northern Acadiana, you got your fair share of heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and quite a bit of lightning, but nothing that was overly severe there. So what we are going to continue to do over the next hour or two, again, we do apologize if you are trying to watch your regularly scheduled programming here on KATC, but we do have to keep an eye on these storms for all of Acadiana, and that includes Iberia, St. Mary, and Lower St. Martin parishes as well. But again, nothing that is really standing out to us at this point, other than some broad rotation here in Vermilion Bay, also extending into, like Rob was saying, close to the Avery Island area. And actually, let's just see here. I'm going to query this storm. Just picked up on this just east of New Iberia. It's pretty close to New Iberia here. Let me see what the Doppler's picking up on here. It looks like it's crossing there, LA 87. Going to query it for us. Yep, thanks. Pick it up on 64 miles per hour. Again, this is elevated, not necessarily the winds that are occurring at the ground level, but nonetheless, some pretty intense winds, some strong winds as these storms push on through. This query here is just around the New Iberia area, so wouldn't be surprised if you're seeing wind gusts easily in the 40 to 50 miles per hour range. But again, we're not seeing strong rotation or something that would suggest that we are seeing any sort of tornadic activity. Broad rotation with this particular cell just north of Avery Island, but again, like I said, it's broad. It's not it's not tightening or anything like that. So that is some good news. And again, like we were talking about over the past few days, the one limiting factor was going to be that stable marine layer. So we had all the dynamics in place aloft, but at the surface, instability was going to be lacking just a bit, and that surface moisture, or our dew points, were not going to be as high as you would like to see for a severe weather outbreak. So that was the one limiting factor, and it looks like it's holding tough, at least at this point. We're not really seeing widespread, intense, severe weather. That is the good news. That's not to say the thunderstorms that have been pushing through are not intense, but we're not seeing a whole lot of tornado-warned storms or anything like that. But if you are in southeastern Acadiana, what you can expect as this line of storms push through, some torrential downpours, gusty winds, and quite a bit of lightning. So just something to give you a heads up there as this line pushes through. New Iberia, you are getting the worst of it as we speak. St. Martinville, the worst, starting to push just east of you, but still you're dealing with a good amount of rainfall there. If you're in Jeanerette, Franklin, Morgan City, the main line still is yet to get to you. That's going to occur over the next probably 30 minutes to an hour. So we're going to continue to monitor the progression of these storms as they continue to push eastward. The point, the Sippermore Point that is, worst of the storm is starting to approach your area as well, with a good amount of lightning and very heavy rainfall. And again, the current warnings that we have, the current warnings that we have, just to bring you up to speed, still a tornado watch in effect. Really, this is more so now for southeastern Acadiana and southeastern Louisiana until 1 o'clock in the morning. But honestly, for Acadiana, it's probably going to be over within the next hour or two. So let's see. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect still for Upper St. Martin, Iberia, portions of Vermilion Parish, really eastern Vermilion Parish, and St. Mary Parish as well. And that is going to run until 8 o'clock. That's right. So that's the next 20 minutes. Yeah, no tornado warnings, just broad rotation in spots, but nothing that is overly concerning.
Right. And what we're kind of toying with is, do we need to be on air right now? Probably not, but since we're here, we have a warning going till 8 o'clock. We're going to stay with you just because we want to, and we want to make sure that we don't miss anything. We want to make sure that if a warning would be issued, that there's going to be no delay in coming in and talking about that storm. So we're going to just stay with you a little while longer. We'll finish it up at 8 o'clock, and all of us can get a dinner or whatever. But still, the worst of the weather still moving through Iberia Parish as we speak. Let's go ahead and take Max 1 because I'm kind of working that right now. Thank you very much. Oh, and it sounds like we went from Ricky to too. Mike is our technical
Yeah, I heard
director.
that.
Those guys do it so well, so seamlessly behind the scenes. Got to remind you that there is a army of folks that work here at KATC that work behind the scenes, that make things happen. And we got some new things coming along down the line that you're absolutely going to love. Some new weather technology. I can't say quite what it is yet, but when you'll see it, you'll know it. You've already heard some of the sound effects that we're doing, but it's going to be more immersive weather and better ways to tell the weather story, especially when we have setups like this, the severe weather scenario. So still strong to intense storms, now working their way, it looks like just about to the Atchafalaya Basin. Let's bring in just Power Doppler 3 here and clean up the picture for you. And then I'll get into pan mode because that's my favorite mode of working in pan. So that's pan mode, so I can just work my hands here. The storm tracking technology, the hand tracking technology is awesome when it works most of the time, but it gives us an opportunity to be here and show you exactly what we're looking at with respect to the storms. Intense storms east now of St. Martinville. We can clear St. Martinville. New Iberia, still raining hard, but not as intense as it was just a little while ago. This is working its way out toward the Lauraville area. Coteau home, so still some intense weather there. And again, still intense thunderstorms now working their way into the eastern part of Vermilion Bay. Sippermore Point, it's about to get rough there once again. And a quick check of the velocity data. You can see where that strong wind shift line is now. It's cleared New Iberia. Again, we're not seeing anything overly tornadic other than we have broad circulation with this cell here just to the northwest of Sippermore Point. So we go back to the Doppler here, and let's just go ahead and check that sucker right there. So we'll be watching this. Normally, if this is producing damaging winds, you'd see a little bit more in the way of concentrated lightning. And one of the things that we notice, and I go back way back when the Doppler, what we call the 88Ds were installed back in the late 80s, early 90s, that we found much more in the way of circulations and thunderstorms than we ever thought would be there, but they're all elevated. So we have a lot of these false alarms with respect to the possibility of rotation. The question is it working its way down all the way down to the ground? And we had that a little bit earlier with some of the storms. In fact, I'm going to back it up and see if we can, if that's on here or not. Let's take a look at some of the storm reports that we haven't had an opportunity to even look at that right now. And you can see where the bulk of the severe weather has been during the course of the day today. Numerous, this may be one or two tornadoes, but numerous tornado reports. These are wind damage reports. Again, we had some wind damage here locally, and we can go ahead and query. These are going to be what we told you about, that semi that was overturned in rain. The one just east of that in the rain area, that is flood. Reports river creeks overflowing, cropland yard basement flooding. I don't know who's got a basement in Doosan, but that basement is flooding there. And a report of strong winds here. That's the thunderstorm wind gust that we saw coming out of Opelousas, 63-mile-an-hour gust. So that has been so far the story. No confirmed tornadoes other than the ones over by Ragley. Again, the storm system moving off to the north and east, and as expected, we have a new tornado warning. Let's get to that right away. Okay, that's for that rotation that we showed you in Vermilion Bay. National Weather Service thinking it's strong enough to issue a tornado warning. That's in effect till 8:15 tonight. Does include the Baldwin, Sharonton, Franklin area through Jeanerette as well. Let me go ahead and track this outside of what the National Weather Service is giving us. We'll go to a cone right here, and we'll track the worst part of the storm roughly right about here, and let's move it in the general direction that it's moving in. We'll follow the polygon from the Weather Service. And again, giving us Jeanerette and Franklin possibly impacted by this as well shortly after 8 o'clock tonight. So here we have what the National Weather Service is putting out, and this is me just tracking the same cell, getting Jeanerette and Franklin in there, and the estimated times. It's nice to know that you're going to be impacted, but you want to know exactly what times you might be impacted. So that's what we have going on right now. So we said we're going to stay with you to 8. It's going to be at least another half hour to 8:15, but we're happy to be here to do that for you. Again, you can see the intense line moving on through, and the cell that we're most concerned with is down here in Iberia Parish, where we were showing some velocity data showing up here. It's just to the northwest of Sycamore Point. It's actually looking a little bit more pronounced all of a sudden, so we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Now, what's the edge of this? Why are we seeing purple here? Well, this is the edge of the Lake Charles Doppler radar. We are not turned, I don't have our Doppler radar turned on, and that's something I'm going to do next time Bradley gets on. I'm going to turn our radar to the point where we can get a closer in look at this velocity data, so that's what we're going to do. But nonetheless, intense storm right now that's moving into coastal portions of Iberia Parish. We'll get to the Doppler right again here, and move it a little bit if we can. Let me get back to that cell. So this is working its way northward. Lydia also in the path of this cell. Let's get down a little bit closer here, and let's zoom in on the spots that we're concerned about the most. And again, there's a lot of marsh between here and the Lydia area. So this is a lot of marshy area. You have Weeks Island right here, Avery Island back to the west. So this is missing Avery Island, so that is the good news. So crossing over toward the Lydia area possibly. And then let's work our way northward. Delaware area, I'm not even sure if that's a town or not. Loisel we do know, Olivier we do know, and then back to the west of the Port of Iberia. So this is just east of the Port of Iberia right now, entering very heavy rainfall in the Lydia area. Where are we seeing? Are we seeing really any concentrated lightning with this? The answer is no, but the Weather Service issuing that tornado warning for that cell. Again, that warning in effect till 8:15 p.m. We'll bring it on in here once again and get you that warning cell right there. And again, this is the warned area from Sycamore Point on through northwestern sections of St. Mary Parish, northwestern portions of lower St. Martin Parish, and the extreme southeastern flank of Iberia Parish as we get down toward the marsh, pretty much south of, say, Highway 182. On down to Highway 90 and then down towards Sycamore Point. And that's within a broad severe thunderstorm warning that we have that goes in effect till 8 o'clock tonight. So a lot going on this evening. Let's move it on over and take a look. Lafayette in the clear. Don't even need to worry about that severe thunderstorm warning, so that is the good news there. Bulk of the activity now in the Atchafalaya Basin moving into across St. Martin Parish. Good news there. Less population. Bad news for our friends on the other side of the Atchafalaya Swamp. That's where Baton Rouge picks up, covering the severe weather there. And then the severe storms as we get into Iberia Parish, also moving into the marsh in some spots, but still in the center of Iberia Parish. Jeanerette, you're going to be getting your what's what with the thunderstorms shortly. This thing is balling up, and actually, just looking at the radar data itself, it looks pretty circular here. This is probably on the verge of a supercell storm, and again, the velocity data, tough to tell, but we are picking up on something here, and we cannot be overly cautious. We can't be too cautious with this. If we see something that's rotating, we got to let you know, and that's what the National Weather Service is doing as well with that particular cell. Elsewhere, we're improving back to the west. We can move this over and pick up the Slidell Doppler radar, and you're not going to see any rotation really with that. You might see some rotation. I think I saw a little something there up into eastern portions of St. Martin Parish. So it's always nice to get another perspective from another Doppler radar, but we'll come back to the Lake Charles radar here to show you that. And then Power Doppler 3, the highest resolution radar in Acadiana, showing you where those strongest storms are as we get into Iberia Parish down right along the Iberia-St. Mary Parish border and then down into the Gulf of Mexico. And let's just put this in motion once again. I'll go ahead and do that. And motion is very important so you can see how things are moving along. Once again, the whole line is moving eastward. It looks like it's becoming a a little bit more fractured, but notice there's still a fair bit of lightning, positive lightning. That's from the cloud to the ground lightning. That's the direction the bolt travels in. Most of our lightning, by the way, the electricity travels from the ground upwards to the cloud. And Earth is normally negatively charged, but you get a negative charge on the bottom of these thunderstorms, and it forces the Earth to become positive, so you go from positive to negative. So that's where we have our lightning discharges. And again, we're seeing more in the way of positive lightning with this system, and I'll kind of query this once again. I love doing this to see what the ratio is, and normally it's 10-to-1 negative to positive strikes, but right now we're about 2-to-1 for positive over negative strikes, so that means still very strong wind dynamics with this system as it continues to move eastward. Again, severe thunderstorm warnings. We got the tornado warning updates coming out of the Slidell National Weather Service, and we got these flood warnings, but the good news is they're going to be short-lived flood warnings. You're not going to have any more flooding rain. It's just it comes down hard and heavy, 2 to 3 inches of rain in an hour, and we know what happens when that happens. The roads start flooding, you start getting water piling up, and thus those warnings have been issued. Again, still tornado watch. They haven't dropped it for the western parishes, but we have this tornado watch till 1 a.m. for eastern Louisiana. But again, everything but the shouting is going to be over with by 10 o'clock tonight for southern Louisiana, and for Acadiana rather, not southern Louisiana, eastern Louisiana still under the gun. And again, you can see how those storms continue to progress off to the east. The trouble spots, this is the one trouble spot right here. Maybe some rotation going on with the cell that's by Sycamore Point moving into the coastal marsh, and then eventually the populated areas right along highways 182, 90 as well. And then you can see a very intense activity now just pushing through the Sycamore Point area. So strong winds there, but they'll be dying down in the next 5 minutes or so. And what we always have to keep an eye on, these renegade cells out here in the Gulf of Mexico. You can see a couple of more supercells. This one really intense at the beginning of the loop, almost beyond the radar range. You see how it worked, the cell worked its way into our radar range, and that is moving generally to the east-northeast at a pretty good clip, probably at about 60 miles an hour as well. So bottom line, most of Acadiana quieting down. Still the severe weather threat ongoing. Iberia, Lower St. Martin, and St. Mary parishes. The rest of us, you can rest easy. We're not going to see any additional storms. On and off showers, yes. The upper level system is not going to clear here till tomorrow, so we're going to see lingering clouds behind this system. Again, as we move forward, that tornado risk continues to push off to the east, so that is the good news there. And let's take a look at the predictive radar, which, by the way, has been on it going all day long yesterday and today. And you can see how well it matches up with the storms we're seeing on radar right now for 8 o'clock, 7 minutes from now. So by 9 o'clock, we're still talking maybe St. Mary Parish. We'll keep an eye on the cells there up through the Baton Rouge area. And then by 10 o'clock, we are in the clear, and then it's just going to be a breezy and cooler affair. Temperatures dipping down into the 40s by tomorrow morning. And we're going to see lingering clouds with us for a good part of the day tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be a wind-chilly day. Temperatures not getting out of the 50s. Lower 50s at that. Wind gusts, again, we're seeing those wind gusts, the potential wind gusts still high. Iberia St. Mary Parish, notice it's showing Jeanerette at 66. And this is her model. We show you the short range model and the long range model. This one updates hour by hour, and it reinitializes based on the Doppler radar, the weather that it sees going on right now. So it's a very accurate model for us, and it's picking up. So these update once an hour. And by the way, I export this to KATC.com. So if you go to the Acadiana Sportsman's page, or a number of pages that we have all this data, including the wind gusts, posted on KATC.com as well. So always a utility. You can go to that, and what I do is I go to it on my phone, and I save the particular particular image location. So I open up a window and boom, I have the latest wind model gusts and that sort of thing. So hour by hour in Lafayette, we're kind of wrapping things up for right now. The super high rain chance is about to drop down. Some wind out of the west. It's going to get breezy out of the west, and that's going to continue overnight tonight through tomorrow, but not as strong as the winds that we had going right now. And here's a little bit of the special effects that we're talking about, immersive weather. Things will be quieting down, so we're hopefully going to be done in the next few hours. And in case you missed that 10-day forecast, the winter chill is going to be back. A milder but active pattern as we go into the latter part of the weekend next week. Not done with the rains, and maybe another cold shot down the line. I think that's what we have for right now. We're going to continue to watch the radar through the evening hours. I guess I want to stay for this tornado warning. We don't see a whole lot going on, but what we have to do is keep talking and keep showing you the radar data so you can see what's going on at your home, at your locale right now. But again, we have that tornado warning in effect for Iberia Parish. I'll call it up right here on Max 1 here and just give you the very latest to recap what we have. Iberia Parish, St. Mary Parish, this tornado warning in effect till I guess we had it at 8:15. We'll continue to watch this cell. We may not be done with the storms. The thing is, we can go off air for 5 minutes, and then we're back on air 5 minutes later. So we'll just take it at that for right now. Bradley, I'll let you take a look at the velocity data. I'll let you see if you can work that while we look at the rains here. And again, we're really pretty much clearing most of Acadiana. Again, taking off all our watch and warning data, you can see that worst of that storm's out in the Atchafalaya Swamp, but it's not so as we get clear the data. We're east of Lorville. That's good news. We're over by the lake, Spanish Lake area, and then as we get to the park area, so that is good news there. Again, let's just bring the radar back on. You can see still we're not done in St. Mary Parish. We're watching those cells down there and the velocity data. So Bradley, what you got there?
Yeah, this is probably shooting pretty high up because we're getting this out of.
With the power Doppler 3.
Okay,
So.
Sounds good. Yeah, we're probably shooting this pretty high up because it's coming out of Slidell. But it is showing 90 miles per hour velocity winds. So again, this is the thunderstorm that is currently a tornado warned. So at the very least, whether or not there's actually a tornado that is on the ground here in St. Mary Parish, really Iberia, St. Mary Parish, you're still seeing some pretty strong winds. I would say as this line of storms pushes through, we're talking winds gusting at times in that 40 to 50 miles per hour range at least. But again, as we do take the graphics here, the Slidell radar is picking up at a velocity of around 89 to 90 miles per hour. But again, that is more than likely well up into the atmosphere at the surface. The winds are not as strong. But nonetheless, still some broad rotation showing up here with this cell. Now, you see how it's right on the edge of the Lake Charles and Slidell radar. That's why it's kind of going back and forth with the color palette. But nonetheless, there is still some broad rotation here just south of Jeanerette. It's pretty much closing in on Highway 90 as we speak.
Okay.
And Rob is getting a check on our radar, see if he's seeing anything different.
Just kind of curious here. I just brought the Doppler radar down a lot.
Okay.
It doesn't serve as large of an area, but I'm looking to see if we see anything. And there you see it right now. And I'm just waiting to see if we come across on our sweep. This is a higher definition sweep, and we're shooting at lower levels. And, well, we just see a hole there. That's just that's just water. Those aren't, that's nothing going on there.
Right.
So the velocity data, just bringing Power Doppler 3 down to a higher resolution, not showing a whole lot here with that cell that we have the tornado warning for. So we'll continue to watch that. Notice what happens when we start messing around with the radar. What I've done is turned it on much more higher sensitivity, so you see the sweep is a lot shorter. if I go ahead and put this in motion, you'll see how it was a bigger sweep initially, and now it's a much shorter sweep. So when we have activity that is moving into St. Landry, Lafayette specifically, we go to this mode. But we don't want to do that and throw the baby out with the bath, so to speak, and miss other weather goings on somewhere else. But again, we're not showing anything that is overly egregious with respect to any potential tornado. In fact, that's the National Weather Service site. Not showing anything. That's our site. You can see it shows a lot more data, and it's much higher resolution right now. And we're not seeing anything outstanding with respect to would flag us to be really concerned with that tornado warning. Again, we have this tornado warning in effect for portions of St. Mary Parish. We have an updated severe thunderstorm warning, and the survey says, what is that going to say? That's trimmed back it's trimmed back, I think, the western flank of that severe thunderstorm warning. What's this other guy going back to the west here? Oh, okay, so the other guy just dropped. Remember, we had that big severe thunderstorm warning. Now it's just been pared down for Iberia, St. Mary, and lower St. Martin Parish. So that's the Weather Service clearing out their data. So certainly kudos for them for being on top of it. And again, let me bring in.
Still rotation.
There's something going on here.
Yeah.
Just by the Generette area, as far as I
Correct.
can tell. Notice how much better the data looks. This is at 150 miles. This is 75 miles. So we learn about our new radar every day. Now, we've had it going back. We're on year 2. We're going into year 3 on this system.
Right.
So it's always which way can we show you the best and what's most instructional for us. Showing the data. So again, not showing a whole lot of data, but we are showing a little something going on there with respect to some rotation, but nothing that sticks out to me at all, Bradley, on this setup right here.
Yeah, and I'm just curious because, like I said, we're not seeing a whole lot on Power Doppler 3 itself, but if you switch it over to Lake Charles and Slidell, there is at least some rotation there, but I'm just curious how far up in the atmosphere this is.
Well, yeah, you're shooting,
yeah.
I can tell you, you're shooting, at that length, you're shooting over 10,000 feet up into the sky.
Right.
I've measured it.
Okay.
And that's why we got Power Doppler 3, because when we get these storms this far away from the Doppler, you're shooting upwards of anywhere between 8,000 feet in Iberia Parish and upwards of 12 to 14,000 feet in eastern St. Mary Parish. So that's why there's a need for a radar locally. The Weather Service radar is a great radar. It's more powerful than ours. It does 10 times the work ours does, but that's your tax dollars at work. For us, we wanted something that was closer to home, that we have control over. And let's go back to Power Doppler 3 on Max here. And now we're in the higher resolution mode. And just to give you an example of why we use this, I'll throw the Lake Charles Doppler radar and take ours off. So that's Lake Charles, and then this is us. It's a much higher resolution picture, and we can get resolution down to 16 meters on our Doppler, whereas the National Weather Service resolution is closer to a couple of hundred meters. I think it's 125 or 250, I can't remember right now, but it's much higher resolution. So this is where we have the heavy rainfall right now. We do have that tornado warning, not to get too sidetracked, but I try to want to, while we're in between trying to figure out what cells are going on, also do a little education and talk about that as well. Let me bring the velocity data back in. Oh, that's an ugly color palette. I'm doing something a little bit of a different way and then bring out the National Weather Service Doppler radar imagery. And again, we don't see a whole lot showing up here that is showing us damaging winds. I'm looking at the back end, looking at the front end here, and we are not picking up a whole lot in the way of damaging winds. If we switch over to Lake Charles, we're going to pick up a lot more wind, but remember, we're shooting so much higher into the atmosphere. So let me just clear these previous queries. Bring in the Lake Charles. Oh, it's not even going to show us Lake Charles area. for right now, or I've just made the computer cry, which is also what I'm very good at doing as well. So let me come back out of this and see what we got. But I might have just locked our system up. And it looks like I did that, Bradley. So you're going to be back on
Okay.
the computer because I just locked the computer up because I was doing too many things on it.
Okay. Yeah, so you have max 2, and again, this is the velocity data here is shooting out of Slidell, so pretty high up in the atmosphere, more than likely, but still somewhat of rotation that is showing up here on the velocity data, and why the this particular storm is tornado warned. So we are going to be watching it closely. Again, it's just radar indicated. It's nothing that has been seen on the ground or someone has reported to us. It is simply just the radar indicating to us that there is some rotation ongoing there in the atmosphere, and why we're keeping an eye on it. But at the very least, as these storms continue to push through Iberia, St. Mary, Lower St. Martin Parish, they are producing torrential downpours, gusty winds, and quite a bit of lightning. So just something to keep in mind. Most areas easily can pick up 1 to 3 inches. We've seen isolated spots pick up even more than that. It just kind of depends, but pretty much all of Acadiana has seen a pretty good soaking with this system as expected. But the good news is that as hard as it did rain, thankfully it's moving at a pretty good clip. So we're not talking at an all-night rain event or anything like that. We have seen some flash flood warnings, but that is simply because the rain has come down so hard and so quickly that there was probably some ponding on the roadways, flooding in low-lying areas, and flooding in those prone spots of Acadiana where the water can collect and pool pretty quickly and easily. But again, the good news, storms are moving along, so let's take a look at the Doppler radar. And again, Lafayette Parish on westward and really northward, you are through with the heavy rainfall. The areas that are still going to be dealing with the storms, Iberia, St. Mary, Lower St. Mary Parish, Lower St. Martin Parish here over the next, we'll say probably hour or two, but they're moving pretty quickly. So I think by 10 o'clock, most of the rainfall is going to be east of Acadiana, and we can all sleep peacefully tonight. So that is some good news there. Won't have to be stressed out for too much longer. And in fact, for most of us, at least in the heart of Acadiana, the severe weather threat has come to an end. And Rob, I think, we were talking about this. It was going to be a test today, really a battle between the upper level dynamics and the stable marine layer.
And that marine layer.
And yeah.
And thank you, marine layer. Once again, we could have seen a lot more activity going on than we actually did. So that is the good news. Let's go back to Max 1 because these are the two storms, and we got the high definition going here. 2 cells that we see moving in, and especially as we get into St. Mary Parish, just west of the Franklin area. This is the area I'm most concerned with right now. That's the most intense cell. It's getting ready to move it is moving into the Baldwin area. It's going to be reaching Sharonton shortly and then work its way toward Franklin. This is the core of a pretty intense cell right here. But as we were indicating, not seeing a whole lot in the way of anything that's nasty. Let me get that velocity data back in. And let me just get our Doppler radar back in on that party. And again, are we seeing anything right here, Bradley? It's hard to tell. We'd be seeing something overt if there was a tornado, and we're not. And what we try to do is stay on as long as we have a warning going. Oh, and that warning's gotten trimmed back, huh? Or is that a new warning? Is that a new warning? Let's check this out. That's till 8:15. Tornado. This is an update. They just pared back the warning, so that is the good news there. The warning is pared back. So let's go to the Doppler again, and we'll go to the warning again, just so you can see where you are, where this is heading. So Sharonton, but you know what? there should probably be a severe thunderstorm warning for the rest of St. Mary now. That has dropped. So we'll see if the Weather Service reissues a severe thunderstorm warning for the rest of St. Mary Parish. But that's what we're seeing right now. Most intense cells once again moving through Iberia Parish, just about clearing Iberia Parish, just in the basin in St. Martin Parish. So we're going to be concerned with St. Mary Parish as expected between 8 and 9 o'clock tonight. It'll probably take a good hour for this to cross St. Mary Parish. But what we also notice, I'm seeing a lot less lightning, right? We're not seeing anything on the velocity data. We're still getting the warnings, but the warnings have been pared back. And let me see if the Weather Service is looking to do anything more. Tornado warning, let's see if there's any special statements. The answer is no. So we play a little bit of a guessing game, and that's the fun part of meteorology, trying to figure out what the National Weather Service is going to say. We do our analysis and our data and everything on our end exclusively at KATC. Of course, we evaluate and utilize National Weather Service data and certainly their warning data all the time. They are a bunch of great professionals that know what they're doing. But they have 15 people working in the shop, and we have the two of us right here. So, but what we're seeing right now, intense storm, yes, going to come down very hard in Franklin shortly. I'm sure the winds are increasing in the Franklin area right now, Baldwin area as well. Baldwin, you're in the mix of it right now. So very heavy rainfall here, pea-size hail possible. But again, we're not seeing anything that sticks out to us as a severe weather threat ongoing at this point. So this warning is going to end in about 4 minutes. We may come back on air. I think we're going to wind up our coverage for right now. Of course, we're watching it in St. Mary Parish. Stay with us on KATC.com and social media. We will continue to update social media. It's interesting, though, we'll be on the air for what now is the better part of 3 hours minus about 20 minutes, and people are complaining that we're not updating them on Facebook or Twitter, and that's where we're only one. If we could clone ourselves, that'd be fun and be able to do it, and I would clone myself certainly about 40 years younger as well. Of course. That's what we have going. But very intense cells still moving through St. Mary Parish, to the northern part of St. Mary Parish. And do we see anything upstream that looks problematic? Don't see anything that's showing a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning. Now we're on the edge of our imagery, but don't worry. We bring in the Doppler sweeps, and I can see further out into the Gulf of Mexico as I pull in the other Doppler radars. So that's what we have going on. You can see most intense activity approaching the Baton Rouge area, western portions of Acadiana, great. And we're watching the rest of this evening. It's all going to be about St. Mary Parish, and we'll keep an eye on these cells as we head through the evening hours. So that, unless you have something else, Bradley, that's about it. We're going to go ahead and finish up our coverage here for right now. Thank you for staying with us and putting up with our, a lot of this is just off the cuff work, and we're going as we go and as the weather data comes in. But what we'll be doing over the next couple of hours, in addition to one of us watching the storms, we'll be trying to gather storm information, and we're efforting to get some of that information and some video for you on Acadiana's news channel at 10, which is going to start in about a little over an hour and a half or so. So that's it from the KATC Weather Lab. Thank you, Bradley. On behalf of Bradley Benoit, myself, Chief Meteorologist Rob Perillo, we're reporting live from the KATC Weather Lab. And don't touch that dial. We may be back in 10 or 15 minutes, but at this point, we're kind of getting close to the stand-down position. Heavy rainfall, yes, for our friends in St. Mary Parish. Yes, some gusty winds, heavy rainfall, gusty winds. But if there are additional warnings issued, specifically tornado warnings, we'll be back here on air, online, KATC.com, on your Roku, on your Apple TV, and on the KATC weather app, and maybe by pigeon as well. I don't know. We cover just about every broadcast entity these days. So that's it from the Weather Lab. We'll see you a little bit later on tonight, and hopefully we don't see you until Acadiana's news channel at 10. Till then, Chief Meteorologist Rob Perillo reporting live from the KATC Weather Lab.